absolute madness after Seattle's Powell Barnett Park is invaded by hundreds of illegal immigrants. Yeah. This is that same group that went to the Seattle City Council and said, we demand that you give us funding, even though they were living in Kent. Yeah. Let's get into it. What does Seattle City's park look like now? Yeah, it's not going to go well. Let's get into it. Here we go. Let's watch a little Jonathan Cho video. Good drone. Nice work. Should be fine. City Park. Let's allow them to pitch tents wherever you want. Just go ahead, pitch a tent. It'll be fine.
Okay.
Calm down.
Tells him to calm down. This dude has balls. Everybody knows who he is. There we go. Oh, yeah. All right. Jonathan, you got to get a camo coat. You got to be a bright yellow coat. Everybody sees you coming from 100 miles away. You got to get a camo coat. I'm just saying. He's being chased. This is a city park.
Hey, don't you have charges
on you?
on
It's a city park in Seattle, in the central district.
Police coming. Yep.
REI.
I'm running in my flip-flops. Woo! Woo!
Oh, so crazy. This is Seattle.
Oh!
She's chasing him with a box. The box. That's insane. And this is just when that began. So there are way more folks now. I got to get over there. So the other day I'm talking to my son, Kiernan, and he lives over in Seattle. He lives in Madison Park. He bought a house over in Madison Park in Seattle against my wishes, but it's a great neighborhood. Anyway, he lives over there. And if he goes across I-90, which is the major freeway to the south, he's got to come up through the central district of Seattle to basically get to his neighborhood. He's driving through there the other day and he goes, man, what's going on at this park? Looks like there's a fair going on or something, some kind of deal going on here. And he was seeing all of these brand new tents that are being set up because you've basically you got mutual aid, you've got Antifa, you've got, the typical group that just enables this kind of thing to happen, to illegally set up in a city park. This group of illegals was down in Kent. They stayed at hotels. They've been in and out of hotels. And they were the ones that came up to Seattle and demanded that the Seattle City Council, which has nothing to do with their issue, that they pay for housing and all these demands, right? And a number of the people from the group that was representing the illegals, they got arrested, charges and all crazy stuff. Well, anyway, there's no more funding for these illegals. So they're just getting put up in tents in a park in Seattle, as you do. It's just what we're doing. So you got a few hundred illegals that are going to be living there for who knows how long in a major park, very close to downtown Seattle. Central area is, kind of a inner city suburb. Let's just call it that. All right. So my son identified it. And I'm like, what's the name of the park? And he goes, Powell. And I said, oh, let me research that. And that was literally Monday. My son was there calling me, I think. And so this is asylum-seeking refugees from South America and Africa are now staying at an encampment at Powell Barnett Park in Seattle's Central District after being shuffled around the county for the past year. Dozens of blue, orange, and green tents have sprouted up across the park, now a temporary home for hundreds of refugees. There are approximately 200 refugees at the park, including many children. According to Cairo 7, hundreds more are coming. I mean, why are we letting this happen? Seattle's just, it's one of these classic virtue signaling sanctuary cities. We want to get our little bit of peace. We want to get our piece of the illegals. We want a virtue signal that we're helping all these folks. But there's not enough money to help them all. And, classic example that's playing out in real time is the city of Denver. They've gone from, bring them all in. We'll give them stays for as long as they want. We'll give them everything that they need to, you can stay for 24 to 72 hours in Denver. And then after that, you need to go live with relatives in Denver if you have them. Or, hey, we'll ship you elsewhere because there's no more room at the inn and there's no more money. According to Cairo News Radio, the refugees have been moved from place to place in King County as temporary aid from cities runs out, leaving the group in and out of hotels. Neighbors say that they want a long-term solution too, but for now, the future of these refugees is as tentative and improvised as their camping site. It's also illegal. It's also illegal. But you know what? This is what the citizens of Seattle, this is what they bought. This is what they paid for. They have elected officials that allow these kind of shenanigans to happen, and they allow just this ridiculous nonsense to go down. How about taking a tough stance and saying, no, you can't stay in the park. The park is paid for by tax-paying citizens, and we want those citizens to be able to enjoy it. And when you're camping in the middle of the field and people don't feel comfortable, then that's going to create kind of an issue. But you know what? I say this is what Seattle bought and paid for. This is what they get. I'm sure it's going to go sideways, just kind of like CHOP did, right? CHOP and CHAZ. Remember that? I mean, what could go wrong, right? What could go wrong? What could go wrong with hundreds of illegal aliens who don't speak the language, don't have work visas, come from a wildly different culture? It's cold here. It's still springtime here in Seattle. We are not in summer weather. It absolutely dumped on Monday. I mean, it came down. We had hail. Yeah. Craziness. But you've got a culture in Seattle. It's let it happen. It's a bunch of soy boys running around. And that's what mutual aid did as well. It's a bunch of soy boys. Let's help them out. And then, and I'm not trying to hammer on illegals coming into the country or coming, but when you don't have a game plan and they're not, you don't know when they're going to get their work visas. You don't know where their housing's going to be. And you virtue signal, bring them on in, bring them on in. I have a real issue with that because that's when things go sideways, like having several hundred posted up in a park. Whatever, right? I mean, this would never happen in Bellevue. Let's just state that. This would not happen in Bellevue. All right. Enough of my virtue signaling, right? All right. Within the refugee encampment, one of the refugees staying in the camp, Samuel from the Democratic Republic of Congo, he spoke to Cairo News Radio using a translator named over a phone call. Samuel, who speaks Portuguese, said that language barriers remain a critical hindrance for many of the refugees and seeking any kind of temporary employment while they tried to feed their families. Yeah, that's why you want to have a concerted effort to, have people come into the country when they've got, when they've been vetted and when they have a work visa. There are rules to this. But unfortunately, with the way that illegal immigration has gone, just bring them into the country, send them up to Seattle. It'll be fine. And I haven't talked a lot about Seattle because not that many, you haven't had the thousands and thousands and thousands dumped off in the streets here in Seattle, like are being done in San Diego right now. One of my earlier podcasts today was on how gun sales are skyrocketing in San Diego because you've had 125,000 illegal immigrants dumped off in the streets of San Diego since September. 125,000. Yep, there's some shenanigans going on, and there will be shenanigans at this encampment as well. It's going to happen, right? You got people that are bored, they're running around, and they can't feed their family. Just this whole thing. And then you got a bunch of soy boys running around and see, let's help you. It's like there's a system in place, and the system needs to be followed. But what you're doing is enabling this crazy out of control situation where hundreds just post up in a field, in a park. And city of Seattle is just going to, it's culturally here, to sweep a homeless encampment is just a huge no-no. And that's because you got a bunch of weak people who don't want to follow the law. They don't want to follow the law. Hey, you can't do that. It's for tax-paying citizens, and we're going to keep this open. That's how this goes. Instead, you have things like CHOP and CHAZ happen, and then everybody wonders, why did it go sideways? They have children who are born here. They have kids who are in school here. They are the future of America, he said. Yeah, but they're also illegal, and they're not legally staying where they should be. As money has run out, that's what happens when you bring thousands of people into an area, hundreds and thousands of people into an area, and there's no real plan. Right? There's no real plan. We're virtue signaling. How's that working out for Denver right now? He said the families, which he estimates at 250 people crowding to dozens of tents, are relying mostly on donations of food from nearby community members. You have families here with little children who are sleeping outside, he said. There isn't enough food for the families or for the children. I mean, it's no different than New York City, right? New York City, bring them all to us. And then Eric Adams, God, we're full. It's going to destroy the city. Now, Seattle is too far north on the West Coast to have that many folks come. We've got a real homeless population problem in Seattle. I don't know if you've heard. We've got a real, bunch of nut jobs running around, crazy people taking advantage of the drug culture. When you put these two entities together, so now you're going to have a bunch of homeless people. Homeless people are throughout Central District. They just are. It's kind of one of those areas where, yeah, great. So you have families out here with little children who are sleeping outside, not enough food. He said that he's very appreciative of the support neighbors have given, but stated that more help is needed. Well, who's going to pay for it? It's so out of control. It's so disorganized. It's not going in the way that organized, orderly immigration should. And that's because from the top down in the U.S. government right now, it's just a free-for-all. Yeah, bring them in. Yeah, no, they can't work for a long time, maybe as long as 6 months, but I'm sure they'll work it out. Meanwhile, the cities that welcome these refugees, yeah, they have to deal with this kind of stuff, right? He's one of many in the camp calling on local governments to offer aid and housing and meal stipends. Samuel's translator, who provided only her first name, Leslie, said that she is Brazilian, but living in Philadelphia. She's been in contact with the refugees here through friends who are now volunteering to help the group in King County. People in green jackets told Cairo that they aren't affiliated with any organization. Instead, they are mutual aid volunteers. Those are the same people that jam up Andrea Suarez all day long for trying to get rid of garbage that people living in city parks leave there. Yeah, you see kind of where I'm going with this? So mutual aid volunteers, mutual aid, they aren't aiding anybody and it's not mutual. They are a waste of humanity. That's what mutual aid is. They don't really help any. They enable people to continue living a drug-style life. And they should not be allowed to do what they do, but they do anyway in the name of helping people out. I'm a big hard no-go. So they're trying to coordinate donations and security for the group of refugees. Despite the camp being set up overnight Monday, one volunteer said the Seattle Parks and Recreation Department must be aware of the situation as locks were placed on the park's bathroom were removed and the bathrooms were thoroughly cleaned. All right, let's break this down for just a scooch, just a moment here. All right, so the restrooms have been locked up, as are a lot of restrooms in Seattle, public restrooms. Why? Because they get trashed by the whacked out psychopath drug addicts who are homeless, who live in the parks. So now that a bunch of illegals come in, bathrooms get cleaned up, locks get taken off. Oh yeah, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. So taxpayer citizens who pay for the park, pay for the maintenance of the park, they don't get to use it unless a bunch of illegals who don't pay any taxes at all, but they promise that they will in the future because they're the future of America. When those folks, by the hundreds, invade Seattle Park, then the restrooms get opened up and they get to use them because guaranteed, nobody in Seattle is going to be using them now because you've got a refugee camp in a Seattle City Park. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Now, Seattle is just so weak. It's so, do whatever you want. Just be fine. You've just got this instead of a system of law of order. So, I'm sure this is going to go sideways. I got to get over there and see this thing because, this is just, it's so standard, right? What did you think was going to happen when hundreds of people, I've already talked about what's happened with this group of refugees down in Seattle. 911 was called how many dozens of times? You had people getting shot. You had all kinds of criminal activity going on. Same group of folks. You're just going to have shenanigans happen when you've got people who can't work, who don't speak the language, who aren't authorized to work, and are illegal. Yeah. On Tuesday, a spokesperson from Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell's office sent a response about the encampment to Cairo News Radio. The spokesperson stated the city has asked the Washington State Department of Social Health and Services to provide support needed to understand the number of impacted individuals and families and their specific needs to inform future actions. I'm sorry. What? Provide support needed to understand the number of impacted individuals. Why don't you just count them? Yep. Understand the number of impacted individuals and families and their specific needs to inform future actions. Well, they need housing. They need jobs. They need a $10,000 debit card. What else? They need a lot of tents. They need food. They need water. I was watching when they cleared out Columbia University in Manhattan in New York. I was watching when they brought in hundreds and hundreds of police officers, just siege style, get them out of there. But I'm pretty sure it was Columbia. I can't remember. I flipped through so many. We've got so many of these ridiculous pro-Palestinian things going on. But some jackass, some gal who is just mentally, she's a college student. Let's just put it that way. She's one of these. Got accepted to Ivy League school. And she's saying, you don't want these, you don't want the pro-Palestinian people that are, that are all, excited about this whole deal. You don't want them to starve. So you need to bring them some food. And you need to bring them some water. They've been there for like 2 days. It's just so bad. It's so bad. It's just like Seattle virtue signals. Okay, yeah, we'll take care of it. We don't have a game plan. We don't have any support. We don't have any money. Just go live in the park. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Spokesperson said it's not healthy nor safe to camp in a park. What? You can't camp in the park? Yes, you can. And they will by the hundreds because Seattle is weak like that. And they'll just say, it's okay. It'll be fine. And the mayor's office will continue creating connections to distribute available resources. Okay, that's why you can't just bring folks in and expect things to work out because they're not going to. Then everything gets kind of rocked. But this is what Seattle runs on, right? This is what Seattle runs on. And then they wonder when they have issues, like 2 black kids getting murdered at CHOP. They wonder why that happens. How did we get here? This is crazy. Well, I guess we need to sweep the encampment. All right, let's do that. Yeah, sent in 600 cops. Seattle Police Department, even though we defunded you and we don't like you and we carried a lot of signs saying, hey, get the F out of our lives. We need you to come in and take care of this because, well, The optics on the summer of love have taken a little dive. They took a little, yep. City has exhausted its allocated funding for migrant shelter and services. This constrains our ability to staff and operate city facilities for emergency shelter needs. Seattle's Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs has continued to support a coordinated response between public sector partners and private entities, exploring opportunities to support what a bunch of nonsense. Just nonsense. Just The spokesperson then referenced the recent investment of $2 million in funding from King County for temporary housing for refugees. Seattle isn't able to take care of their already enormous existing homeless population that is whacked out on drugs. So throwing a few hundred more to, a few hundred more people into a park, I'm sure it'll work out fine. It should be great. Also, the $30 million passed by the state legislature for shelter and resources for migrants and asylum seekers, such a statewide systemic response plan is necessary to avoid the continued cycling of migrants in and out of short-term hotel stays. That's why there needs to be a greater overall plan for, migration, and this whole notion of just bring them on in. This is the end result of that. And on the Seattle end, this is what Seattle gets. It'll be a cluster. It'll be an enormous cluster. And things will go sideways because this has been going sideways. They already did a march on City Hall, right? And then you got that whacked out attorney representing the people that got arrested. Remember that? Her name was, I think, Stephanie. His name was Stephanie. That whole thing is confusing. We look to the state, county, and services providers that have been awarded funding to leverage resources. Just a bunch of origins of the refugee encampment. More than 600 refugees, mostly hailing from Venezuela, Angola, and Congo, arrived at the Riverton Park United Methodist Church in Tukwila last year. And it was shenanigan after shenanigan after shenanigan. The cops were called so many times. Unwilling to turn those in need away, because that always works out, the church converted itself into a cramped shelter for the refugees. It's unclear why the church became a respite for refugees. Well, because the pastor basically said, the woman pastor said, all right, doing the Lord's work. But sojourners stayed at a shelter, told the refugees the church would provide support. What a bad look. You're going to house us all right? Okay. Last October, the city of Tukwila declared a state of emergency regarding the influx of asylum seekers. Yeah, can't handle it. All right. Yeah, got no resources. And these cities are already behind the eight ball as far as, their budget goes. Tukwila community has always been welcoming to refugees and immigrants from around the world. Many new arrivals to the United States have called Tukwila, yada, 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 yada. Asylum seekers were moved to a hotel in Kent, and then they got some money, and then they didn't, and they got 100 hotel rooms. Then we had an anonymous donor, kept the group of asylum-seeking refugees at the Quality Inn for an additional 11 days in Kent. How about the DoubleTree? How about that DoubleTree in Denver, where you've had 3 murders? Like if you had three murders, 3 solid known murders. I mean, it is just, they call it the Trouble Tree because you've got hundreds and hundreds of illegals, just whacked out, just doing crazy stuff, literally shooting each other. So, yeah, I mean, you want that outside in a park? No. Now Seattle's got it. The asylum process in the U.S. is long, with the average legal asylum seeker often waiting 4 years to get their asylum request. Now, don't worry, we've short-tracked that to at least get them a work permit, right? But then, it'll take years and years and years for the 80 million people we've got in the United States that are living here illegally. Governor Inslee's office stated the legislature has upped the budget to help new arrivals to the state by $32 million. So we're just going to spend more and more taxpayers' money on a problem we can't solve. That we can't take care of our own homeless folks. We can't take care of our own people that need mental health care. We can't take care of all the people being sexually trafficked up in Seattle. I was watching an Aurora Avenue video. And man, that is just out of control up there. You've just got ladies turning tricks all day long because Seattle is just, it's Freeattle. It's Seattle. Crazy times. All right. This story is not going anywhere. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell, all that good stuff, because we're going to be doing updates on this bad boy for sure. Even if it's just Jonathan Cho running around in his new camo coat. Maybe I should get Jonathan a camo coat. That'd be funny. Here you go, Jonathan. You need this. You need to be a little bit more incognito than your bright canary yellow coat. Jonathan Cho does work. All right. That's it for me. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.